It's 7:30 p.m. and we're going to begin this regular meeting of the Rutherford Board of Education. At this time, we're going to ask everyone who can to please stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In Mr. Kelly's absence, I'll ask Mr. Hurley to please take roll.
Mr. Bogosian, Mrs. Cole, Mr. Conti, Mr. Healy, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Maison, Dr. Racine, Mr. Sprayberry, Dr. Alati. Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Rutherford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place posted on the bulletin board outside the Borough Clerk's office, mailed to the Herald, South Bergenite, and the Record newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk. Hard copies of the agenda are available in the meeting room, and the agenda is posted electronically on Friday before the meeting date on the district's website at www.rutherfordschools.org. Subsequent to the meeting, a video of the meeting will be updated to the district's website, www.rutherfordschools.org. The video link can be found by opening the Board of Education link and clicking on Public Meetings and then Videos. Board members, in your packets that you received, there are minutes to approve for the regular meeting and executive session of October 2nd, 2023. Any questions or comments about those? All right, hearing none, Mr. Hurley, I'll ask you to please enter those. First off, I just want to say Dr. Racine is not feeling well this evening, and as one of our board members was very upset that he couldn't make it this evening. This is one of the greatest things that we get to do as Board of Education members, which is celebrate all the accomplishments of our students. And since we have so many families that are attending this evening, we actually thought that we'd love you to see a board meeting. So we're going to change the order and begin with our entire board meeting and end with the special awards. Nah, just kidding. It's with great pleasure that I hand the microphone over to Mr. Morano.
Thank you, Dr. Alati. It is a great pleasure to stand before you tonight to acknowledge and celebrate the outstanding academic achievement of our students receiving a Board of Education award. The students here tonight have excelled in their studies, achieving a remarkable GPA of 3.70 with no grade lower than a B- during the 2022-2023 school year. In the world of education, we often say that success is the result of hard work, determination, and a commitment to excellence. Today, we have the distinct honor of recognizing the students who embody these principles and whose dedication to learning has set them apart. These achievements are not only a testament to their own efforts, but also a reflection of the guidance, support, and inspiration provided by our dedicated teaching staff. Our educators have played a crucial role in instilling a love for learning. As a principal, I am proud of the accomplishments of our students. And today's recognition reaffirms our school's commitment to fostering excellence in education. To the recipients of this award, I want to say that you all have not only excelled academically, but have also demonstrated qualities of determination, perseverance, and a commitment to your own growth. Your achievement is a testament to your character and the bright future that lies ahead. To the family and friends who have supported and encouraged these students throughout their educational journey, I extend my heartfelt thanks for your support. Thank you to Mr. Hurley, our Superintendent of Schools, Mr. DeBarry, our Assistant Principal, Dr. Hopkins, our Director of Guidance, and Mr. Kelly, our Business Administrator. Once again, congratulations to these exceptional students, and thank you to the Board of Education for recognizing and celebrating their achievements and your continued support of the Rutherford Schools. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Jack Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Morano. And you want to walk by?
Sure. Don't push.
Yeah, all right. I certainly, can echo what Mr. Morano said about the pride that I have and the joy that I have for the accomplishments of our students and the faculty and the staff and everyone who works with our students from the time they enter really in kindergarten all the way up. Because these honors that are earned in high school are not just achieved in high school. They're the foundational pieces that go along the way. And, of course, the biggest foundational piece starts at home. And this is a night not only to celebrate the students, but also to celebrate the parents and the family and the community that helps work with us to nurture the growth of the students. So as a parent, myself, and now a grandparent, I'm going to share with you all to enjoy these moments because they really are great achievements. And to the students, know that not only have you accomplished a great deal to earn this award, but you also have gone a long way to make all of us proud because we are proud of what you do, and we continue to want to be behind you and work with you to make sure you continue this excellence and even go beyond. So enjoy the evening. Congratulations, one and all. And it's now my honor to introduce our Director of Guidance, Dr. Shannon Hopkins.
Good evening. The Board of Education Scholastic Award is presented to those students who meet the criteria of 3.7 or higher weighted grade point average for an academic year while not receiving a final grade of less than a B- while attending Rutherford High School. The Bronze Award is presented to students who earn this distinction for one academic year, the 22-23 school year. We would ask that you hold your applause until all names have been read so that each name can be heard. Mr. Morano, our principal, will present the Bronze Awards. We'll begin with our seniors. Garisa Aslani. Matthew Chu. Darren Galicchio. Arham Khan. Xavier Mazco. And now for our juniors, Devin Burgos. Lila Corniculo. Ella Walsh. And our sophomores, Serena Alves. Ariana Amante. Janina Barna. Keshav Barathon. Hannah Bobowitz. Christopher Burns. Andrew Choi. Matthew Chu. David Correa. Alexandra Corwin. Tessa Davidson. Danielle Delator. Vincent D'Annunzio. Kate Finan. Raina Forte. Jasmine Gadia. Akshat Gohil. Ava Hernandez. Here Para. Sarah Iorio. Samuel Caderna. Ben Liu. Chase Maloney. Serene Millian. Kate Metzger. Nina Olivo. Gabby Pakovitz. Lena Powell. Umber Patel. Adriana Pizza. Edward Raymond. Leonardo Sarasensi. Om Sanani. Maya Ten. Natalie Turner. Catherine Valencia. Mackenzie Velis. And Reina Zalavadia. A round of applause for our bronze winners. And now our silver awards will be presented by Mr. Jack Hurley, Superintendent of Schools. These students have earned this distinction for 2 academic years. We'll begin again with our seniors. Alina Amaro. Liam Cahill. Ava Coppola. Kaylee Griffin. Kyla Kemple. Catherine Paolazzi. Nicholas Santiago. Matthew Scheibe. Lana Schroeder. Audrey Segadin. Ryan Ward. Aiden Barone. Krista Bellinger. Ava Bergman. Tata Bisick. Tida, sorry. Poppy Bimsum. Alexis Capello. Zadie Castellanos. Nathaniel Chi. Thomas Sinque. Caden Cole. Andy Concepcion. Kate Dillon. John Eustace. Jay Galiotto. Mia Garcia. Tristan Greeley. Gianna Hernenko. Calvin Jordan. Grayson Crocus. Sophia Lanchipa. Alari McGregor. Carolus Macia. Haley Moran. Andres Newman. Angelina Nira. Kaya Noguchi. Lucy Olivo. Cassidy Ovarsi. Palak Purohit. Brandon Ramick. Nicholas Scaglione. Wesley Schleimer. Andrew Silva. Pranav Sridhar. Ava Stadler. Oliver Tapia. Margaret Terso. Rachel Vidal. Fiona Waller. Rafal Wolosh. Bharat Yijit. Beryl Yijit. Jaden Yu. And Mia Ziccanella. A round of applause for her. And now our Gold Awards will be presented by Dr. Sergio Alati, President of the Board of Education. These students have earned this award all 3 years in high school so far. If they also earn this award as seniors, they will be presented with a plaque at graduation. Okay, last group. Stella Abu Awad. James Alati. Aiden Allshouse. Carrie Augustifer. Michaela Brennan. Bella Cardinali. Isabella Claveria. Cecilia Davidson. Daniel Fensick. Maya Forte. Heniel Gandhi. Sophia Geltrude. Ayush Gohil. John Gossard. Ava Greiner. Timothy Hunt. Carlito Inductivo. Hannah Kane. Sabrina Krasnicki. Rebecca Matthews. Maya McCosker. Coda Marizo. Ariana Medina. Abigail Moeller. Horatio Nelson. Chinzia Nicodemo. Mia Olivo. Arav Parikh. Aran Patel. Lauren Flager. Neil Rana. Lauren Ramsey. Madeline Savage. Alyssa Schaefer. Ellie Schmidt. Madison Silverstein Cuoto. Tyler Smith. Natalia Tomzak. Evan Tortora. Catherine Weigel. And Emma Wizard. Okay, we have just a few other awards to give out this evening. The first is our Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony Award. This award is given to a student who has an interest in humanities and social services. The recipient displays leadership and dedication to community action and has strong grades and rigorous courses taken in these areas. The winner of this award this year goes to Cecilia Davidson. The George Eastman Young Leaders Award goes to a student who displays strong leadership experience at school and in the community and has high grades in challenging courses and extensive involvement in extracurricular activity. This year's recipient is Ellie Schmidt. The winner of the Bausch and Lomb Science Award is a student who demonstrates high achievement and rigor in science classes and earned high PSAT or SAT math scores. This year's recipient is Mia Olivo. The Rensselaer Medal goes to a promising student who has distinguished themselves in the areas of math and science. This year's winner is Neil Rana.
One more round of applause for all our students. I'll turn the program over to Dr. Alati.
All right, I want to congratulate all our students. Like I said earlier this evening, there's nothing more proud that we get to do as Board of Education members than to celebrate all the great students here. Look forward to shaking all your hands to the seniors out here and giving your diplomas at graduation a few months away. So continue to be the best version of yourselves, do great things. We're all really excited and proud of you. We're going to take about a 10 or 15 minute break, and then we invite everyone here to reconvene for the rest of our Board of Education meeting, if you'd like, in the high school cafeteria. So thank you and have a great night. Representative is not here this evening. We're going to move on to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you. Thank you. Basically my report tonight is going to just be a quick review of the report of student achievement, which I sent to you, and Some of it we won't be going over, but I will be referring to some of the pages, which there are page numbers at the bottom if you want to take a look as I go through it. But before I get to that, I just want to let you know we got some good news from the state. If you remember, we were talking about Univent projects with ROD money, which is money that the state gives to offset facilities projects. So we got approval this past week. I received a letter for our $401,540 project. 40% of that now will be funded by the state, which comes out to $160,000 and some odd dollars. So that's going to primarily be Union School. Maybe we'll see how, if we, remember we talked last meeting about not going forward with the accepting bids, going back out to bid because they came in too high. And so now we'll see with the approval of the funds, we know we'll cover Union. Maybe we'll get a bid where we could do some of the other schools. Keep in mind the Univent replacements is going to be an ongoing item in our capital budget for the next several years as we try to, because they're expensive, so we're going to do it bit by bit and hopefully within like a 4 or 5 year project getting them all done, and this ROD grant money certainly helps the cause, so that's good news. Okay, and we're going to go back out to bid and hopefully be awarding a bid so that we can do the work in the summer where the money has to be expended. Okay. All right, let's move on to the report of student achievement. Every year under code, I have to give this report primarily on any of the testing that we do in terms of the state testing, or also AP, DLM, ACT, SAT, and so on. I'm going to go out of order just a little bit, and I mean, you don't have to go there, but it's actually page 59. And by the way, for anybody who is our audience here, or the audience that may be watching this on video, within a day or two, this report will be online, so you'll be able to see it. And I want to thank Mrs. Fargo, as she is beginning the last few months of her career here. She's the one who puts all this together for me. It's a rather voluminous report. So on page 59, you'll see some notable achievements on the state testing, which we're going to talk about first. In grade 3 through 9, which is all where the test covers, we achieved higher percentages of the state on the last two numbers, 4 and 5, which are either achieving that they met or exceeded expectations. I mean, that's where you want to be, right? You want to be where you meet or exceed. So we achieved higher percentages in the state. I'm going to go through some of them more particularly later on. In grades 4, 5, 6, and 8 this year, we showed achievement in those two categories at 80% or higher, which is a remarkably high number for 80% of our students, showing that they have met or exceeded the expectations in grades 4, 5, 6, and 8. In grades 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9 in language arts, the percent improvement from 2022 to 2023 was significant. Okay? In grade 6, the improvement was 22, and two of the most significant ones. In grade 6, the improvement was 22.5%. In grade 8, the improvement was 15.3%. Those are big jumps. Now, I do want to give one caveat to that, right? When I say the improvement in grade 6 was 22.5% from last year, those are different kids, right? So when I've gone over this with you every year that I do this, when we track student growth, that's more of an individualized report that we look at. Or we could also look at how the grade 5 kids did last year and how the grade 6 kids did this year, right? But the test results for me have a two-prong benefit, right? One is to look at individual student growth, but the other is also take a look at curriculum, methodology, pedagogy, because if you consistently see decline in a grade level, for example, like we're doing now, right, in some of these committees, we want to take a look at what's going on at that grade level. It's not a one-year hiccup, right? It's a consistent pattern. So when I talk about improvement in grade level, I'm going to talk a little bit later about student growth. Okay, they're two different things, right? In grade 3-7 math and in Algebra 1, we achieved higher percentage of the state scores and who have met and exceeded expectations. So similar in English language arts, but as we've talked about, the numbers not as high as we'd like them to be. In grades 4, 5, and 6 in math, there was, again, a significant percent improvement in scores from 2022 to 2023, with an improvement in grade 5 of 12.9% and grade 6 with 20.3%. And we'll talk a little bit more about math and scores as we go along. So I just wanted to mention that, in generally speaking, the scores are good. You know, they're above state averages, and in many, many grade levels and in many students, we have shown some improvement. Some of it I do attribute to some of the things we started talking about last December and January, but I think, hopefully we're going to see more and more improvement as we go a little deeper. Okay, on page 2, there is a chart. They did a lot of the charts. The templates come from the state. There's a little bit of choice of which templates we can choose, but this year the state really did focus on comparisons and contrasts from 2022 to 2023. And what I would suggest, if you're looking at those pages, of the first few pages for language arts, math, and science, the change in level 1 and 2, okay, if you go to the last column, for example, on page 2, you want the change in level 1 and 2 to be either a low positive number or a negative number, because those are the lower scoring students. And if you look at language arts, you'll see that most of the numbers are negative or a modest increase in students who do not fare that well. Okay? You want the change in level 4 and 5 to be positive and a high positive. And once again, you could look at a couple of grade levels where there was a decline, but for the most part, there was increases. Just to kind of emphasize the point I just made about student growth versus grade level, if you look at the language arts page as an example, and you took grade 7, and you looked at grade 7, level 4 in 2022, 38.9% were at level 4. And then you look at grade 7 this year, and 37.1% were at level 4, and you see that as a potential decline. And in fact, it was a decline if you followed the way I'm talking in a moment. But if I take that grade 7, 38.9, and I look at how they did in grade 8 this year, because that's where they are, you'll see that 43.5% achieved level 4. So for those kids, there was an increase. For the grade level, there was a decline. So, the state sold this testing on us, I've said this before, on individual student growth. In fact, student growth is part of some of our teachers' evaluation, final evaluation. Yet a lot of the reports is more on grade level. And that's why our supervisors start, and then the data teams in the schools continue the process of really looking at the individual score reports. Okay? At any point, if you have a question, I don't want to wait till the end, because you may forget the question, I'll probably forget the answer. Yes, Mr. Yeley.
Mr. Hurley, in general, are the tests year to year about the same as far as the test content?
Content, no.
No.
The content varies, even the test. There are some questions on the test that are not on all tests. You'll see, if you really took a good hard look at some of this, we're not looking at everything tonight, you'll see some scores where only 10 or 11 students may have answered a question. That's because we're only on 10 or 11 tests. And as the standards vary year to year, the content changes a little bit. But the general makeup of the test is the same. Yeah. Okay. So again, the same chart for grade 7, for math, which is on page 3. Same, pretty much overall areas of growth and decline. Once again, we see a significant drop in grade 7, and that's why our math committee is taking a good hard look at not only grade 7 or grade 8 or grade 9, but also at the foundational pieces that get us there. Okay? In science, on grade 4, you'll see that although we're not happy with our science scores, I don't think anybody in the state is really happy with the science scores. They're traditionally very low. Our growth, we had a 14% increase in students scoring the highest levels, 3 and 4. There's only 4 levels. The state does whatever they can to confuse you. There's 5 levels and everything else, and in science there's only 4 levels. So you might say, why? 3, that's not that good. You know, in science, 3 is really good. In language arts, that's pretty good. Okay? That's why Mrs. Fargo is retiring. She loves the job, but this is driving her nuts. Right. The 18% increase in grade 3 and 4, level 3 and 4 in science on grade 11. A 19% decrease, which is what you want to have in levels 1 and 2. But in grade 5, we had a slight increase on the lower level of 4.5%. And a slight decrease of the higher level. And once again, science is one of those areas that we are, as you're going to find out sometime in January or February, I'll get to that in a moment too, we're taking a real, hard look at. I saw, I didn't write down the name, but maybe some of you know the quote, where he said, most of our world runs on science and technology, and most of us know very little about science and technology. And, we're trying to fight that battle right now. I've always felt, and remember, I was an English teacher, but I've always felt that students, parents, have always been a little more accepting of a student who struggles in math and science than they would be in language arts. People are guilty of saying, oh, I wasn't good in math either. Nobody ever wants to say I can't read, right? So, we're fighting that battle, and we're winning it. I didn't say the war yet. We're winning the battle. We haven't won the war yet. We move on to page 5. That just shows you how many students actually tested. And you can see we're pretty consistent year to year. We're in the 98% to 100% of students testing. And that just either means 1 or 2 students may have opted out, or may have been absent and then did not make it up for some reason, but it's a very low number of students. When you have grade 3, you have just slightly under 200 students, and you only have 2% not taking it. There's 3-4 students didn't take it. Okay. Same chart is there for math, same type of numbers. I do want to point out that when you get to geometry, you'll see the numbers of students taking it are like 52%. And that's because students don't have to take both those tests. They have to take whatever math they're in grade 9. And that's changing now anyway, but that's still maybe changing. And the same for science. Again, the same high numbers. Okay. The next section is a look at the actual side-by-side comparison of how our students did on each level in each of the tested areas compared to how the state did. And again, you'll see, especially in language arts, some very significant numbers. For example, in grade 4, I just arbitrarily picked grade 4 from page 8. Language, we had less than 1% of our students score at level 1, the lowest level. The state was at 12.8%. And if you go to the page 10, I guess it is, stay with grade 4, you'll see that we had 29% of our students, almost 30, 29.7, score at level 5, the highest level, and 14% in the state. So pretty consistently in language arts, we are well ahead of the state, which quite frankly we should be. I mean, I'm glad we are, but we should be. Our numbers are good. Like I mentioned before, we have several grade levels that had 80% in level 4 and 5, which is really a very significant number. Our committees have found less concern about test results in language arts, maybe more concerned about, things that have gone by the wayside, like the infusion of grammar back in, right? and the infusion of vocabulary back in formalized instruction. And also, we've been focusing much more this year, and I've seen it, in the thing that really I'm very happy with. Every observation report that's done comes to me, and I read them, right? So every teacher gets a minimum of 2 or at least 3, the non-tenure 3, tenure 2. So that's a lot of observations. And the number of observations I've read this year where I've seen things that we're talking about infusing being done. And one of them is cross-content curriculum, where I think sometimes, we focus so much on literature in language arts classes, and yet when the student sits for these tests, whether they be the AP test or the SAT or the state test, the reading they have to analyze is a science passage or a history passage or even a math passage. Okay, so we're infusing more of that reading into our reading program. What follows the language arts are about, 20, 30 pages, 20 pages, some odd, of intervention strategies. We've gone over these before. So Mr. Ursulisi takes them, goes through the individual score reports, not individual score of students, but the individual score of each question. Because you get a report that shows each question, how many students did well, how many students didn't do well, how many, where you are based on the state level with that question, the questions tied to a standard. So if you see patterns in certain questions where we didn't do very well on, you then start to look at, well, how was that standard addressed in the classroom? And what interventions can we be providing students, and also tools can we give to a teacher to try to strengthen those areas? So that's what follows up to page 26. And then we get into the math scores. There's a page 27 that gives you a little guide to math. Grade 8, last year, most of our grade 8 students took Algebra 1. So the grade 8 scores really are not very reflective, and did not even, well, no, they did, but they're not very reflective of our student population as a whole. Okay? Algebra 1, 2, and geometry data, well, if you're in grade 11 and 12, you're not included in the testing. So it's a smaller number of students. Okay? And because there's a math section, they tell you that if the numbers are rounded, so it may not come out to 100. You'll notice in math, very similar, especially in the primary grades. For example, I mentioned grade 4 in language arts, grade 4 in math. We had 2.5% of our students score level 1 in grade 4. And across the board, they're all pretty good until you get to Algebra 1. The state had 13.1%, so again, significantly less. We tracked those students, like I did in the other area, to level 4. 5% of our students scored level 4, 37 in the state. So once again, we're consistently doing better than the state, but there is a significant decline in the performance on this test when you get to grade 7. And our committee is working hard on that. The first step is our Math and Focus program is become obsolete in terms of not being supported anymore by the company that puts it out. So we need a new math program. Math and Focus is one that we can take, the new version of it. We're also looking at some other versions, and we're going to have a recommendation very shortly because we have to implement it next year. We're looking at whether or not we want to stay with the traditional, ending that program in grade 6 and then moving to different types of a almost a middle school type of approach in grade 7 through 12, or do we want to continue the program through grade 8? We're visiting other school districts, ones that have performed better than we performed on these, because this is all public record, right? We're talking with the teachers, the committees. All of this stuff, what we're doing is not Ms. Schmedding or the principals or me. It's the committee of teachers that have been put in place to look at this stuff. We're also looking at math sequencing, whether all of our kids should be taking Algebra 1 in grade 8, or whether we should go back to what we've done in years past where more kids took it in grade 9. Because quite frankly, Some students are taking it in grade 8 and grade 9 because they're not achieving in grade 8. So, or is the answer that we have to look at what's going on in grade 7, maybe when the foundational pieces for Algebra 1 aren't there. Whatever the committee comes up with, I can tell you they started working on this in January. And by the time they make a recommendation, it's going to be well over a year of study, both internal study, across the buildings, looking at other districts. So again, it's a healthy conversation. And I will tell you that I give credit to the entire community that I'm dealing with, the professionals, who are not just saying, scores are not bad, we're doing better than average, let's just keep them. You know, we can do better than this. So we're working on it. Okay? But as they stand, these scores are okay. They're good. And then what follows, again, are a large number of pages on math intervention strategies, just like Mr. Ursulisi attacks the language arts. Ms. Schmedding does the same with math. Then we jump all the way up to page 54. The science scores are very low statewide. We did okay, you know. I mean, if you look at the level 1, where we had 15% of our 8th grade students only tested in grade 5, 8, and 11, okay? And if 15%, 15.8% of our scored a level 1 in science in grade 8, much higher low scores than we see in math or language arts. However, 40% of the state scored at level 1. Not a real high number of grade 8 students scored the highest level at 6.2%, but the state was at 4.4. So the numbers in grade 8 and in grade 11 are not bad comparatively to the state and to other districts, but they're not good. And that's always been the case with this science test, statewide and in the district. Grade 5 this year did not fare that well, where we're actually above the state on some of the lower scores, and we don't want to be there. For whatever reason, statewide and locally, the science scores have been low, but I'm not accepting that anymore, and we're taking a real hard look at science. And we're looking at things that have, again, fallen by the wayside in a lot of places. Claim evidence reasoning, you know, SIRS, when we were, you know, in school, we call it a lab report. You know, things like that, where taking the science fairs in the lower level and not making them just a nice little activity that's being made, but something that really involves inquiry. Okay? Again, I give Ms. Schmedding and Ms. Saxon, who are chairing the committee, and the teachers who are working on it, a lot of credit, because they're taking a good hard look at what they're doing and questioning what they're doing and looking at how to do better. And again, I could come here and just say these scores are all fine, because they are, but I want to do better. Okay? And so does the faculty, so do the supervisors, so do the administrators. They want to do better. And then we have the science intervention strategies. Okay? So that's the state testing part of it. I got a few other tests to go over. Any questions or comments on the state testing? And again, what I am going to do, I know in February, I believe it's February, we're planning on having, and we don't have our board calendar set yet for next year, right? But you know, it's going to be pretty close to what it was this year. I think we have Matt Lee planned, right, for February to come and do, but so either the second meeting in January, or we'll see how the meetings fall in February. I'm going to ask that the chairs of these committees, the 4 committees, come to a presentation here and let them give you, you know, a 5 or 10 minute discussion of what's been going on. Because I'll tell you, when I meet with these individuals, and they are Mr. Ryan and Dr. Hopkins, who are doing the Academic Alignment Committee, and they're looking at things like honors placement and honors programs and final exams. Should they be back in the mix? Benchmark assessments, midterms. Ms. Schmedding and Ms. Saxon doing science, Ms. Schmedding and Mr. DeBarry doing math, and Mr. Ursulisi and Ms. Yoda doing the language arts and social studies. And the teachers who are on those committees, there's, 6 or 7, Ms. Fensick, there's 6 or 7, right, on every committee, because you're on one of the kids, something like that. Maybe a few, maybe closer to 10, right? We picked up some people. So, you're talking 40 or 50 faculty members and administrators and supervisors. And when I meet with periodically with the department, the chairs of those committees, the passion they have and the excitement they have and the energy they bring from what their teachers are talking about, I'd like them to share that with you as well, okay? And also, Mr. Ryan and Ms. Saxon are also doing the profile of the graduate, so we get a report on all that. So that may be January, and that'll be a much better midterm goal report than the long-winded narrative that I give you and you have to read, right? You can actually interact with people. So that was my way of saying, maybe I'll cut down on the writing. No, I'm only kidding. Any questions on that part before I get to the rest?
Jack, I have one question. How do I phrase this? So how, and I don't know if this is something that the department chairs, the administrators study, or the teachers, but how closely aligned would you say the sort of curriculum is with the actual standardized tests? And I don't think that we should be teaching to a test, but if there's a misalignment between a robust curriculum and questions that may not directly relate to the curriculum, that's like an interesting piece of information.
No, we're not. No, and we're not. We had this conversation. I don't mean we had it. I've had it. The administrators have had it, where there are folks who say, "Well, I don't want to teach to a test." Well, you're not teaching to a test. The curriculum is based on standards. The test is directly aligned to standards. So to answer your question, the curriculum is 100% aligned because it's all standard-based. Everything in the curriculum, when the teachers do their lesson plans, they have to indicate what standard that lesson is addressing. However, like I said, if I never have a student read a science article or essay and ask him to analyze it like an English teacher would ask a student to analyze a piece of writing, I'm addressing the standard, but I'm not giving them the type of critical thinking.
And I guess I'm asking more about science because I feel like with ELA and with math, you are going to have that really close alignment.
Well, science has the same thing, but see, the problem with science is now when you get to, is the integrated science approach that I think we have to do a deeper dive and look at in terms of the curriculum. So the integrated science is, taking environmental and physics and biology and chemistry and kind of bits and pieces of that, especially in grades 7 and 8. And I think we have to take a harder look at that. And we are going to visit some schools and take a look at that. But the we'll get to another test in a minute. But advanced placement, where we keep knocking it out of the park and getting on the College Board honor roll every year. Our teachers all go to AP training. They follow the AP guidelines. I don't know. The kids are getting medals, and the teachers are getting medals, and nobody's complaining about teachers to the test. I'm just saying, So, but it's a good point, especially science. Is challenging. Keep in mind, our elementary teachers, right, are charged with teaching everything. We have a science specialist that does a pull-out class, one class of lesson a week, but they're charged with teaching everything. They have to be generalists, and they have the very challenging task of teaching kids how to read and how to write and how to do basic computation, right? So all of a sudden, things like science and social studies, they're hard to infuse, and so we're looking into. I think I mentioned this at a meeting, is bringing in a couple of coaches and let them work with the teachers. And the teachers are embracing that. It's not for lack of effort, But sometimes you just need guidance.
Mr. Hurley, can you put some of the, half kidding, some of the science and math on YouTube? The students will watch it over and over again.
I tried that with my kids, didn't work. There are things, we're looking into using some grant money next year. I'm dealing with so much different grant money. I'm hoping I'm getting this right. But we're looking at using some, before it expires, for some real person online tutoring that would be available basically around the clock for kids if they choose to use it. So to your point, we're looking at the things like that. Maybe not YouTube, because you don't know who. I could post a math lesson on YouTube, wouldn't be worth watching. Yeah. Okay. Anything else before I move on to the others? And again, I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. Our test scores are fine. In fact, they've gotten better. I just feel in any organization or any endeavor, you have to keep striving to do better. The dynamic learning maps on page 60 are tests given to students, an alternate assessment with students with our most significant disabilities. Most years I don't even report scores because we have fewer than 10. This year we had 10 students, so I have to report it. So these are students who are in classes that do not necessarily follow the curriculum that the other students follow because they're severely cognitively impaired. And you can see with 10 students in language arts, you have on page 61 emerging, approaching, target, or advanced, and you have the numbers being what they were. The majority of students are in the emerging. We have a fair number of students in the at target and a small number in approaching and advanced. Okay? But that's 10 students district-wide. Page 62, the profile of the class of 2023, 185 graduates. As I tell you every year, the cohort rate of 96.8 means everyone who entered freshman year, where were they senior year? So if a student was retained a year, let's say sophomore year because of attendance or because of grades, he was not a member of the class of 2023, but he counts in the cohort of not graduating. He may graduate this year, but he counts. If I took just the students who walked in the door as seniors last September, we were at 99.5% or something like that. I think we had one student who didn't graduate. So 96.8 is still a good number. 76% to four-year colleges, 16% to two-year colleges, 92% total attending colleges, 4% of vocational type or technical schools. So a total of 96% of the kids of the 185 going on to further education, and 4% either going to employment or the military. And again, with 4%, you're talking fewer than 10 kids, right? Yes. Yeah. Yes, sir.
All years past we broke the military out.
What?
We used to break the military out.
Yeah, they don't anymore. This is what they give us. So, but we had, I think, one student last year, if I'm not mistaken. One went military, one went ROTC scholarship at Seward College. Advanced placement, as you know, 5, 4, and 3, unlike the state test, 3 can often earn you college credit or the ability to get a waiver from certain elementary classes. If you look at page 64, you will see that once again we have done very, very well. We received the honor roll distinction again. 74% of our students who took the test scored 3 or above. That number is consistent. As you see, 80%, 73, 84, 86. Those are very high numbers to have 3/4 or more of your students most years scoring, why we get the honor roll distinction. I also want you to look at a little summary on the right side of the page where our number of students last year that took the test, total number of students who took AP was 166. This year, 209. That's the highest number of students taking AP tests we've ever had. And we have 359 exams being taken compared to 273 last year. And so those are significantly high numbers. And students who have accepted the challenge, and have succeeded. And I will tell you that the 26% who did not score a 3 or above still did all the work, got all the skills, got all the knowledge, got all the critical and creative thinking needed to be in an AP class. SATs, they no longer give you all the comparisons to national and state. Our scores this year, fewer students took it, 140, because there are more colleges now that say you don't need it. But so 76% of the class of 2023 took the SAT, and it used to be 98%, 99%. That number's down. The mean score was 1113. They don't do any more comparison, but I looked it up. Last year we were at 1083, so we did better. 559 in math, we did a slight improvement. In reading and writing, up from 554. 555 in math, up from 539. So our scores are again good, and they're up. ACT, which is another college entrance, again, fewer students have taken it now than in the past because, again, fewer schools are requiring it. But our composite score is 28.3, and by sake of comparison, last year it was 23.7. So that's an increase too. Okay? So there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff I didn't go over. There's even some additional stuff that I'm going to put, you'll see on the website. And there's all kinds of stuff that is just for internal look that we don't give out. We do get a ton of information from these tests. To me, the information we get is much more meaningful than the score reports because it shows us a lot about curriculum. It shows us a lot about points of emphasis. It shows us a lot about where we have to do certain interventions. Questions?
Tell me, why do you think the colleges no longer put the emphasis on the SATs that they used to?
I think they're taking a more holistic approach to rather than a score, one test, deciding. They're looking at a more complete picture. I don't know if Dr. Eladi, have you have any thoughts on that?
The question was why it's optional?
Well,
Still?
no, they're putting so much less emphasis on the SAT
Right.
than they did several years ago. But why did they decide it wasn't necessary?
I think.
I mean, there's the argument that, importance of standardized tests go through phases. I think that you've got a band of students who are in the lower high school grades, upper middle school grades during the height of COVID, who are then, coming up, might be not in the most advantageous place compared to their peers previously, and so I think there's that option. Probably a couple of other reasons, including what Mr. Hurley said, that taking a holistic approach and looking at, all these other aspects of what you're required to do, your transcripts, your recommendations, interviews, more holistic, hands-on approach.
I think when you look at student performance, to me, the state testing that I reported on today, I mean, I know I report on other tests as well, but that's the bulk of it, right? I think it has tremendous value for what we're using it for. Looking at curriculum, looking at methodology, looking at the type of questions we ask, the type of critical thinking we're asking. I don't think it has such merit to judge a student. And I think, when we look at our students, the students who received awards tonight, their state test didn't factor into that. The valedictorian state test doesn't factor into that. But I think it has merit. So when you look at an entrance to a college, the thought that, 12 years of education comes down to how you do on one test.
I have one other slight conspiracy theory on this one, which is that if right now, this year and last year, because it's not required, because it's optional, a lot of colleges are saying if your scores are at this level, at a certain level, you should submit them, otherwise if we don't see them, we don't know. And so if you look at all these colleges now, their scores are so inflated because only the students they're getting, so much. I mean, TCNJ this year, their average score they posted from last year was almost 1,400 on the SAT. So what's going to happen is once those colleges decide to make it required, that average is going to go down in year one. And I think maybe colleges aren't ready to understand how to navigate and deal with that.
Right. Yeah. So
My conspiracy
yeah.
theory.
So I think a lot of thought process into college admission have been really. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of changes, right? There's been rulings from the courts about it, right? Of what you can and can't do with affirmative action and things like that. So I think there's a lot of changes going down the line.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? And I will also tell you that in the high school, Mr. Jones, I'll end the report on student achievement with this. There's a teacher who's kind of on her own. She asked if she could do it, willing to give up her time, is running a cursive writing club at lunchtime
Isn't this wonderful?
for students who want to come in and do some cursive writing. And of course, we have the teacher in Pierpont who does the joke of the day in cursive writing. So you've started a movement. But no, I think it is a little frightening. We even have some younger staff members who struggle with it.
I
So
just think you should,
right.
your signature is the one thing that's certainly all yours.
right. So it is it's serious. I'm kidding you. It is making a comeback. It's making a comeback. You mentioned that legislation that's pending,
Yeah,
but it's making a comeback.
Legislation's not
But it's making a comeback in the buildings. It's making a comeback in even some of the professional journals I'm reading.
I would hope so.
So,
Thank
okay.
you.
All right, that's my report. I mean, it's a long report, so I'll end it with that. I put some other things in the communication, and I will mention one or two things in the agenda when we get to it. Okay.
All right, any questions for Mr. Hurley? Hearing none, we're going to move on now to the report of the president. So the New Jersey School Boards Association workshop is tomorrow through Thursday. Thank you to Mrs. Jones and Mr. Healy who are going to be attending. Very excited for you to see the RHS Select Choir perform. That should be great. So enjoy that, accompanying Mr. Hurley and Mr. Kelly. So a couple of plays coming up for all those who are able to make it on November 16th and November 17th is the RHS All-School Play Little Women. So that should be really exciting. On November 17th is the Rutherford Education Foundation Casino Night at the Grey Cliff. Always a good time. So, these are great events to be involved in and try to show up to if you have the time. Our next board meeting is going to be on November 13th, so by then, I'd like to be close to or ready to launch our board evaluation so that we have a little bit of time to fill that out, take a look at it, analyze it. So I'll be tapping one of our board members to help me roll that forward. And graduation is Thursday, June 20th.
Say that at every meeting?
I'm going to say it at every meeting.
Are you going to have the evaluation due before Christmas?
So that will be the goal. It'd be great to be able to. We'll see. Maybe not. I have to look at when the board meeting schedule is for January and see which one we want to go over that.
At the end of the year, before the new
Yeah.
year last year.
Listen, there's not a deadline really. I mean, according to the state, there's not a deadline for actually submitting it. It's best practice for us to do it. So the earlier we can launch it, the more time it gives everyone. So
We actually have a policy on it. I didn't know we had it, but I found it.
You do have a policy?
We do?
Do?
Yeah.
In our bylaws?
Evaluations. Well, I believe I did. Maybe I should double check.
I don't think so.
I found that, I didn't know we had it. It was mandatory years ago. Then they made it optional. But it is a good practice to do it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, the idea is, the board is evaluating itself based on this entire year, so we want to get the current board to be able to evaluate itself, because you've been on the board to see and be able to evaluate, so we're going to try to launch that in the next 3 weeks. That's it for my report. Questions? All right, hearing none, then at 8:50 p.m. we're going to open the meeting to the public for anything related to the agenda this evening. Seeing no comments, we're going to close the meeting at 8:50 p.m. and move to new business where there is action to be taken. We will start with personnel. Mr. Conti.
Yes, we have 11 motions this evening. One is the retirement. Mr. Potter is retiring. Very upsetting there. Good for him, though, I suppose. 2 is to approve an interim assistant principal. 3 is to approve a part-time music teacher. 4 is to approve part-time teacher assistant. 5 is to approve the an adjusted start date for a lunch monitor. 6 is to approve an extension on disability leave. 7 is to approve teachers for supplementary after-school Title I programs as listed there. Number 8 is to approve teacher-to-teacher program as listed. 9 is approve to approve substitute teachers as listed. 10 is to approve substitute teacher assistants as listed. And 11 is to approve travel reimbursements as listed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Conti. Mr. Early, any comments?
Yeah, I would like to comment Mr. Potter's retirement. If it's upsetting to you, consider I had Mr. Potter when he was a sophomore as a student. So think of how upsetting it is to me. But he's certainly a fixture in the community, not just in Lincoln School. As many years as he taught Lincoln School, he coached in high school and has lived in town his entire life. So we'll be talking more about all of our retirees. We're getting a lot of them this year, and we'll be talking more about them as the year goes on. And also, similar name but a different name, Dr. Porto, as the interim assistant principal, with Mr. Ryan moving into Mrs. Fargo's position. We felt it was a better move to not have to rush through a search for an assistant principal, have an interim in place, and then post a position in the new year and be able to go through the process. Dr. Porto was a superintendent in Hasbrook Heights. He was a principal at Hackensack High School. He's taught English at many schools, and he's teaching English right now here in the high school as a leave replacement for the first semester. So he knows the community. He's been in the district, and he'll bring he'll do a good job for us until we get the permanent position filled for July. Okay.
He sounds underqualified.
Yeah. He just he got in touch with me in the summer about the English position, and then my wheels started turning about we have somebody. So he was interested, and like I said, he brings a wealth of experience.
That's great. Any questions or comments?
I just agree with all that you said about Mr. Potter. He was a senior in high school when my oldest one started, and I remember him on the basketball court, and he was a good athlete. But he really enjoyed his job, and that is so important.
Yeah, and he's a current member of the advisory board for the Profile of the Graduate, and he has brought so much insight into that group. So
he's a good man.
Just don't tell him I said all these nice things about him.
I'll go watch his freshman play volleyball and tell him everything.
All right, Mr. Conti, do you want to move those?
I'd like to move motions 1 through 11.
All right. Do we have a second? Mr. Bogosian, any last questions or comments? Hearing none, as Mr. Hurley, please take roll.
Okay. Mr. Bogosian?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maison?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
All right, thank you. We'll move on now to curriculum and instruction. Ms. Jones.
We did not have a curriculum and instruction meeting, and tonight there are 10 motions put forth on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Number 1, out-of-district placements. Number 2, field trips. 3, emergency bus evacuation drills. Resolutions 4 through 9 are HIVs, and Resolution 10 is Bergen Academy, with a list of the students going to Hackensack Paramus, Peterborough, and Applied Technology, and Interactive Design Technology.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments? Nope. All right. Hearing none, Ms. Jones, you want to move those?
I move resolutions 1 through 10 under curriculum and instruction.
All right, do we have a second? Mr. Healy? Any last questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Healy, please take roll.
Sure. Mr. Bogosian?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maison?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry? Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Motion's passed.
All right, thank you. We'll move on now to Finance. Mr. Bogosian.
Yes, we did not have a Finance Committee meeting since our last full board meeting. Tonight we have two motions. Number one is the routine approval of bills, and number two is a truck donation of the band truck to the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
All right. Questions or comments? Hearing none, want to move those?
I'd like to move motions 1 and 2 under Finance.
All right, do we have a second? All right, Mr. Mazzone, any last questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Hurley, please take roll.
Okay, Mr. Bogosian?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maison?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
And Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Motion's passed.
All right, policy, Mr. Healy, walk us
Yes.
through it.
We did not have a policy committee meeting, but the committee members did correspond with the administration and regarding the policies as listed. We do have one question that we're going to follow up on with policy 5111, but not at this time, and it doesn't impact the implementation of this policy. There is one resolution with 11 policies or regulations being put forth tonight as listed.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments from board members? I'm sure you read word for word that nice size packet with all the policies. I just want to thank people on the policy committee, because it is a lot of very close reading to correspond within a few days to come up with any questions or comments, and there are always questions and comments that go back and forth. All right, hearing none, Mr. Healy, you want to move
Yes,
this
I'd like
motion?
to move that one resolution.
All right, we have a second. Ms. Cole, any last questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Hurley, please take roll.
Mr. Bogosian?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maison?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry? Dr. Alati?
Yes. All right. Motion is carried there.
Yep, motion's carried, I'm sorry.
We're going to move on now to building and grounds. Mr. Sprayberry.
No meeting, nothing to report.
When that happened last week.
First time in 8 years.
Not with nothing. This is the first nothing.
All right, thank you. Then we will move on to old business. Any old business? Mr. Sprayberry.
I'd like to attend the Rutherford High School PTA, and the miracle happened that Jack and Frank both spoke, and were out before midnight. So, it was about 58. But Jack came in and gave a presentation on the profile of the Rutherford student, and it was just, it was really, really, you realize what Rutherford is and who we are, it's powerful. You see it in their students and stuff, and then Frank just feels everything you got to say. So, it's fun. But, both of them, their energy and their passion, it just shows what kind of school we have, what it shows on that stage tonight, with all the awards for the students. So, hell of a job.
Thank you. Other old business? Mr. Conti.
Yeah, I attended the Lincoln PTA meeting. Mr. Hurley was there as well, gave a great presentation. One of the interesting things for me at the Lincoln PTA meeting was just the amount of things. Again, I'm constantly amazed at the amount of things that the PTA does for not just the students, but for the teachers as well in the district. Whether it's teacher appreciation or reimbursements for school supplies, just really impressive. And, they have a big fundraising effort with various things like with the lunches, the PTA lunches, and all that money that they take in is going right back into the school system, which has been great. So it was really well attended, and I got a lot of people afterwards came up and commented. They were thrilled to see Mr. Hurley there in person. So it was, like I said, a great meeting overall.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Jones.
I make the rounds. I went to the Washington School meeting, and Mr. Hurley was there. So he was
getting
very
around.
busy at all the meetings. And I'm always impressed. I say it often to them that when I started with PTA, we needed $1,000 for the year, and we had to run a fair or something to get that money. So what they do now is absolutely incredible.
Awesome. Mr. Ely.
I'll finish it up maybe with the Kinder Center. I attended the PTA meeting, and ditto on the number of activities. It's amazing, the PTA members and the board, what they organize, and it's all financed and organized to a point where it's precision. And Mrs. Coy did a great job, and her staff, explaining the beginning of school and other procedures. It was a very good meeting. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll just wrap it up by congratulating all our sports teams. A lot of great stuff going on. Our football team won the
league.
The league conference.
Yeah, and girls soccer won the league. And
yep, girls soccer.
Girls cross country won the league.
Yep.
Girls soccer.
Yeah, girls soccer won the league. Yep.
The
Overtime.
yeah, men's varsity soccer starts their playoffs on Wednesday.
Yep. Yeah, everybody's now state tournament
Yep.
time. Yep.
Big win tonight. I think Rutherford varsity men's team beat Lyndhurst for the first time in a few years.
Good.
The score of 6-1.
JV was 4-0.
Nice.
No, it's been a pretty successful fall, and football is, I think, the first state game is Friday night at home. So, yeah, everybody's now getting into the state part of the season.
All right. Any other old business? Hearing none. Legislative update. Mr. Jones.
Thank you. This is Senate Bill number 3907, which was introduced on June 1st, 2023 by 3 Democrat senators. Prohibits public libraries and public schools from banning or restricting access to certain books, permits withholding of state aid for non-compliance. So that's a really tough one if it goes forward.
That's been introduced, right?
It's been introduced on June 1st.
Okay.
All right.
That's all I
Yeah.
have.
Thank you for sharing. Questions or comments? All right. Well, hearing none, then at 9:04 p.m. we're going to open the meeting to the public for anything related or not related to the agenda. All right. Hearing nothing, we're going to close the meeting at 9:04 p.m. And we do not have a need for an executive session this evening, which means we can entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bogosian, seconded by Mr. Mazzone. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned.